I just want to let you know, bro, that it only takes 1 week to lock in. Okay, it's not 3 months, it's not, 1 month or maybe a year. It only takes a week to lock in. Because after a week, your identity is actually going to change. Because I don't know if you go through any kind of torture, but going through 1 week of torture, imagine if someone kidnapped you, imagine if someone's torturing you, doing that for a week, it's going to change a lot of your identity, right? So if you do anything difficult for a week, you're just going to have to learn to love it, because a week is way longer than you think. Because not only is there 24 hours in a day, right? You got 24 hours and you got 24 hours and 24 hours, and you got to think about all those uncomfortable instances when you want to do something, when you have that compulsion to do the bad thing, and to go a week without it, you're easily going to go 2 weeks. You're easily going to go a month, right? And this applies to everything. It's not just like smoking or, fapping or just junk food, anything. It only takes a week. Now, the reason I made this video is because I'm sleeping for 9 hours now. And I know 9 hours may seem a lot, right? But if you sleep for 9 hours, you're going to actually end up getting 8 hours of sleep. And I noticed that it's really helping me with my cravings and with my compulsions to to stay up and to do any kind of bad habit. Those compulsions are really really dying down insanely fast, and I noticed that it became really really easy after a week. But just like the first few days, like the first 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, it was insanely hard. Like I remember I went to sleep, and I was trying to go to sleep. I was closing my eyes, and I couldn't fall asleep. I couldn't fall asleep. I just kept looking at the time. I just kept looking at the phone. I kept thinking, maybe I should go on YouTube. Maybe I should watch this video to help me fall asleep. Maybe I should put some lo-fi music. But I just turned off all those compulsions and just forced myself to literally close my eyes for the entire night. And I did that for like 1 or 2 days. And by like the third day, it got a little easier. I was actually falling asleep, but I wasn't fully asleep. And then the fourth or fifth or sixth day, then it started getting a little more easier, and I was actually falling asleep, but it was just still a little uncomfortable. But after a week, now I get like dreams. Now I can easily like sleep without forcing myself to do that. And it also is the same thing with food, right? So I had like the biggest sweet tooth ever. Like I always wanted to have cookies. I wanted to have ice creams. I wanted to have cakes. I ate all the fucking junk food, dude. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Like once I ate any kind of junk food, I would clean the cupboards. That's the type of person I was. But when I forced myself to go just 1 week, right? All I tell myself is just 1 week of stopping, right? And then after a week, you're I don't know what it is, but like your brain or your gut microbiome or something, it just shifts, because it's almost like Stockholm syndrome, right? It's like when somebody gets kidnapped, right? It's like they're scared and they're like super super terrified and everything, but it's kind of sad. But you know after a while, that person actually gets used to the kidnapper, and when the kidnapper actually lets them go, they actually want to come back to the kidnapper. That's literally what Stockholm syndrome is, right? Now, obviously, that's a very bad thing, and it's horrible. Don't don't do kidnapping, obviously, but you can use the same concept for your own body and for your own tendencies. So if you go through a week of, let's say, quote unquote torture, you're actually going to learn to like the torture, because it's not going to seem like torture to you. It's actually going to seem pleasurable, because that's going to be home for you. Think about like the home you're in right now. When you first get in a new home, if you ever went to college or anything, you're actually kind of on edge. You're actually a little anxious, because you're like, okay, I got a new roommate. These are new people. It's like a new place for me. I don't know if I'm going to sleep well. I don't know if it's going to be a good place. I don't know if someone's going to like, doodle on my face or something. Like, you're kind of a little nervous. But then after like a week, after 2 weeks, you kind of get used to your roommate. You get used to your surroundings, and then you fall asleep better. So you use the same Stockholm syndrome on your body. So when it comes to food, just eat the potatoes, eat the like the food that doesn't taste that good, and just bear through a week of unpleasantness, right? But then after a week, just know your body's actually going to start to crave it. So you know how your body kind of craves, like, yeah, this is kind of nice, but I kind of want Nutella. I kind of want to just go to a store and like get some Swiss rolls or something. You know how you have like a natural urge to go towards the junk food? Your natural urge is going to be like, this is great, but I kind of want like some pumpkin. I kind of want some chicken breast. You're actually going to get that desire, but you have to give it like a week. Okay, so A week is really going to change your life, man. And in that week, what you don't understand is your identity is also going to shift as well. Because you can't just say, okay, I'm going to do this for a week and then, I'm just going to go to my own habits. It's not going to work, right? But in that week, you're going to understand, like, it's almost like being in a desert, right? So if you're in a desert somewhere and, you're going to really value a roof over your head. You're actually going to value your parents and your friends and everything, because when you're in the desert, you're just trying to survive. Why do you think anytime somebody gets stranded somewhere, they're always so grateful when they come back to their family? Because you don't appreciate it when you have it, right? So that 1 week, it's almost like going through a week without water, right? It's almost like that, because you're depraving yourself so much that you're going to actually reset everything in your body, and you're going to program it to specifically want the good stuff. Okay, but if you can't last a week, I don't know what to tell you, because a week, anybody can do a week. I understand if I'm asking you to do it for a month, if asking you to do it for like 90 days, but just give it a week, man, because it's going to be really, really good. And I know you want that aesthetic body. I know you want to, get lean and shredded. You want to get rid of that skinny fat. Like, if you want to do that, you have to go through some type of torture, some type of uncomfortable feeling. Because if you don't, you can't last. I mean, you can't go through a week of pain. How can you go through 3 months of fat loss, or 4 months of fat loss? It's not going to happen. But I do want you to know that after a week, it gets way, way easier, because the identity you have, the person you become, it becomes way more defined. You're like, okay, why am I actually doing this? During those 7 days, you're going to actually think like, okay, why am I actually doing this? Why am I losing the fat? Why do I not like being skinny fat? What do I actually want out of life? You're going to actually, like these papers over here, you're going to actually write down, like, what are your actual goals? Forget fat loss, forget trying to get a six pack, forget trying to be lean and, getting girls, forget all that for a second. It's like, okay, what do I actually want? Do I actually want to wake up at 8 a.m. and go to my job that I don't like and do my shit job that I hate and feel like shit, and then come back and feel like shit, and, cope with junk food, and then, feel really bad about my life, and then cope by watching porn and jacking off, and then eating some more junk food, and then being sleep deprived the next day, and then waking up and going to work all over again? Like, is that really who I want to be? Is that all I want out of life? Like, okay, I want to have a nice body, but I also want to have a shit life. Is that who I want to be? Or is it something like, okay, I have something of a hidden desire, like, okay, maybe I want to be an author, maybe I want to be a singer, maybe I want to be, maybe it's just a businessman, maybe you just want to do some drop shipping, maybe you just want to do some Bitcoin or whatever. Like, what is your true inner desires? You're going to find that out, because all these compulsions to eat the junk food, to just cope with all this shit, it's because you're just, one, you might be bored, but two, you have like this lacking sense of desire to conquer something, right? You don't know what you want to do with your life. You kind of want to do something. You want to be passionate about something. You watch these animes like Solo Leveling. You want to have this desire to like beat something, to conquer something, to do something, but you don't know what that is. But in the 7 days, you will actually find out what that is, because you're so depraved. You have nothing else to do but think, right? And when you think, and you think, and you think, all these philosophers, all these great people like Alexander the Great, all these people, they literally sat there and just wrote stuff down in their journal, and they just thought and thought and thought and thought, and that's why they became like such great people. Now, I'm not saying to live like that. I'm not saying to always be like that. But if you give yourself a week of just thoughts, without bullshit entertainment, without all this junk food that's clouding your judgment, if you just sit there and think, what do I actually want out of life? You're going to literally understand why you're doing this. And the person who you actually want to be, I guarantee you they're not eating like shit, right? That version of you, do you really picture yourself like, okay, I'm going to picture myself as this guy who gets girls, who has a Lamborghini, but I'm going to have a pot belly. I'm going to, look like I'm almost like pregnant. And that's the look I want. That's the dream version of me. That's who I want to be. I guarantee you that's not the person who you want to be, bro. Okay? And once you actually envision that life you want, not just the way you want to look, but the work you actually want to be doing, the thing you actually want to be doing with your life, then you're going to have way more clarity. And then when you actually get presented with junk food, you're going to easily say no, because you're like, okay, this obviously is not going to make me the person I want to be. And, and when you look at your age and you look at where you want to be, you're going to see that you only have a finite amount of time to accomplish this, right? Because you're not going to live forever. So that creates that sense of urgency, and you can easily not be able to eat the junk food. Okay, so what I want you to do is just go through 7 days of just not eating shit and actually eat the eat the healthy stuff. And no matter how you feel, I understand it's gonna taste like shit, but just do it for a week. And then after, if it doesn't work, then you can blame me. Then you can do some other shit, whatever. But I guarantee you, for me, this will work for me. Just do a week of healthy eating, and you'll easily adapt to the healthy foods and actually start craving that shit. Okay, and a big thing I want to talk to you, man, is what I want to talk to you about is like identity transformation. Okay, because that identity thing is huge. Okay, because people always think about, okay, I want to become this type of person. I want to be this type of person. Everyone dreams. Everybody, has this idea of who they want to be, but it has to be really, really defined. Like, what do you actually want? Like, do you really want to be an engineer? Do you really want to be a doctor? Do you really want to be in that marketing job? Like genuinely, don't write down stuff that sounds good, that's gonna please your parents, that's gonna please somebody. Like, genuinely, like, what is it you truly want to do? Like, if you knew you couldn't fail, if you knew there was no barriers, what would you actually want, right? And then actually spend your time chasing that. The problem is, you might have some commitments like school or college or work or whatever, but that few hours of time that you have after work and after all your commitments, you can't think clearly because you're just so clouded with all this food, right? Because you have this brain fog, then you need to recover, then you need to take a shower, and it almost feels like you're just coasting through life, but not in a good way. You're kind of just, you don't have time to think, you don't have time to like do anything. You're just stuck, like you're stuck on a hamster wheel doing the same thing because you're almost like a slave, right? You can't have time for anything. But when you remove the food, when you have like the potatoes for the first time, when you first have the chicken breast instead of the Swiss rolls, you're gonna actually sit down and think, okay, I'm actually want to be an astronaut. I actually want to do this. Okay, and then you start making an action plan, right? So you take some paper, you actually have an action plan. Okay, step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this, and you actually decide how you're going to get there, and you'll have clarity. And you know what the crazy thing is? You might think, Harsha, I came back from work, I'm fucking tired, I'm pissed, I don't want to fucking, eat the slop, I want to eat good food, I want to go get some Chipotle, I just want to wind down. But what you don't realize is you winding down, you're never gonna get out of this trap. You do realize that, right? If you keep doing the same stuff, I understand you go to work, it's hard, you come back, and you kind of recover, you kind of have the junk food to kind of relax and stuff. But you see, it's gonna keep repeating. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, okay, you recovered, but now you recovered, now tomorrow you have to still go to work, and you still have to do that job, and you still have to come back, and you still have to recover, and then you still have to come back to work the next day, and you still have to recover. And it's like, when do you even have the time to actually like do anything? You see what I mean? You have to break the loop somehow, right? You have to break the pattern somehow. So I actually recommend you watch this movie called The Maze Runner, right? It's like all these people who are stuck in a maze, they're stuck in this world and everybody thinks the same. They're like, oh, this is our life, this is what we have to do. But there's this one main character named Thomas who actually sees beyond the maze. He's like, I don't want this to be my life. I don't want this to just be all that who I am. I want to see more. Maybe there's something outside of this maze. Maybe there's a world outside of this. And when you see and consume content like that, you're just going to actually be able to go after what you want. Now look, if I'm talking to you and you have a job that you actually like doing, I'm not talking to you. You're not the person who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the guy who actually wants more out of life, who isn't satisfied with this job, who kind of just does what others expect him to do because that's the acceptable thing to do, and he has to pay rent, he has to do this, he has all these obligations, but he isn't actually living to the standard that he wants to be. He doesn't actually want the job that he's in. He actually wants to he doesn't know what it is, but he actually wants to go after something that he's truly passionate about. So the work doesn't actually seem like work. To actually have the fuel to go after that, you need to eat healthy food and you need to work out. That's the only way your mind will have any kind of energy to actually go after the things that you want. So that 5 to 9 period, that 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. period, you can actually use that time to brainstorm and think, and then you can plot your escape. Think about it. If you're in a prison and you're just you're in prison, whatever, and they're like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that. You gotta, when you get back in your cell, you got to like chip away at the wall with the spoon. Yeah, you gotta do something. Because think about, how else will you get out? How else will you get out? You have to put in the effort, right? So it's more deeper than just, okay, it's just food, it's just working out. It's way deeper than that. It's the fuel you need to get out of the prison that you put yourself in. Okay, and you need to do this. And I didn't recognize this, because when I was in school, when I was in college, I wanted more than this. I wanted to not be in that position to like study for these dumbass tests that I'll never use anyway, right? And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I mean, I'm an economics major. I don't want an economics job, and I'm just doing some test because, okay, I have to do it because I'm in college, okay, and then I'm not passionate about it, and then I'm so tired, and I have to study and I have to do all this shit, and then I would also eat junk food on top of that. And I had dreams of becoming more fit, of having a fitness business, of doing this, but I never had the fuel to actually follow through with it, because all my time was spent on recovering, when the recovering was actually poisoning myself, right? Think about it. You're doing shit that you hate, and then you're also poisoning yourself. And it's like, what the hell? Like, when am I actually going to get out of this? Now, in college, you can actually get out of college because, it's for like 4 years or whatever, right? But with work, when are you going to get out of work? You're never going to get out of work, right? You need to, there's no time frame that's like, okay, you worked for like 2 years, now you're done with work forever. No, you're going to keep working, right? So you have to, it's more important than ever, especially when you're up there in age, like, well, 24 isn't old, but I'm 24 years old, but you got to see yourself like, okay, I'm going to be 24, then I'm going to be 25, then I'm going to be 26, and 27. When does it end? When does it end? You have to have that urgency. So as soon as you dial in your nutrition, everything will come into play. Everything will work. You'll get girls, you're going to be more focused. You can actually make more money. You can get out of that position that you're in. You can do all this stuff. Like, you can do that. Now, I'm not there yet, right? But I do realize that once I get like my nutrition sorted, once I get my nutrition sorted, which I am right now, I feel more capable. I just have this more high like vigor for life. I have like this intensity to me that I just desire life more. When you're just sitting there and you're just like, life is just, I don't know what is happening with my life. I just have to go to work, whatever. Like, you have that mellow look on life. When you're actually eating good, you feel super, super energized. Like when you're 10 years old and you got that brand new video game your dad got you on your Wii or PSP or, on your Xbox or whatever. That excitement you got when you were playing that game, when you were beating that boss or whatever, you get that same excitement back. But the only way you'll get it and the only way you'll find it is with the nutrition. And when you do nutrition, you're actually going to be it's going to be way easier for you to not be jacking off as well. And when you do that as well, now it's going to be easier for you to be more productive as well. And when you're more productive, it's easier to make money. When it's easier to make money, now you can actually live the life you want. It's like a snowball effect, but it all starts with the nutrition. Because if you can't even look the way you want to look, if you can't even do what you want to do, which is have a nice body, how can you do the things you're supposed to do? Like, really, really, really think about that. Really tap in about that. If you can't even do the things that you want, right? You don't want a fat body, right? You actually want to be in a good shape, right? You want to have an aesthetic body. That's what you want. There's some things you don't want, like paying rent, obligations, whatever. But if you can't even do what you want, how can you do the things you're supposed to do, right? It's crazy. So you have to at least master this so that you can actually do the things you're supposed to do. Okay, because if you don't, guess what? You might get fired. You probably will get fired. You probably will be, having to, scrape by and, do some fucking bullshit job. It's going to be horrible. So do the thing that you want to do first, which is get a nice body. And then, I would even recommend that, hey, maybe go back to your parents' place, whatever. Just focus on getting a nice body first, which is only achieved through fat loss, right? If you just get it done with fat loss, if you just lose the fat, you don't even have to build muscle. As soon as you lose that extra layer of fat and you get like a flat stomach, now you start doing your job, you're going to be more focused, you can actually get shit done. Okay? I just want to stress to you, man, it only takes a week. It only takes a week. So start today, write it on your paper, whatever, and mark it down. Count down the days if you want. Just do it for a week, and I guarantee you, man, your whole identity, everything is going to shift, but I need you to go through that week. And that's the video for today, man. Tap in, lock in, only takes a week, and that's all I want to say. And I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.